time for the ride home in ENC.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
This is your 5 o'clock drive with Patrick Johnson.
Holy mackerel!
More news, more interviews, more ECU stories than you can shake a stick at. Hey, stop shaking that stick. This is the Patrick Johnson Show.
Pirates win! Pirates win!
On 94.3 The Game.
Soggy down here at the Working Man's Beach. Was a frog strangler in Greenville yesterday. We operate here today at this 5 o'clock hour with a fresh, fun, and live edition of the Patrick Johnson Show. Nice to have you with us. Phil Steele today. Phil Steele will be our guest. Great to have Phil on. We couldn't work it out to get him on when we before we went on our hiatus.
Do it live!
That's right, doing it live. And Phil was, did you know Phil went to Europe for 2 weeks? So that was part of the reason we couldn't get him. And then, you know, he obviously released the magazine around July 4th, and I got my copy prior to the holiday. So I've been, you know, thumbing through it and reading it during the course of the last month and several weeks. Excellent, chock full of goodness. So Phil Steele on the Pirates, the American, and college football today. Looking forward to that coming up in just a few minutes. We have intern Demetrius in today, so welcome to him. Part of the team here today, and of course the one and only Philip the Ref Pilkington is here. I got a text today from our guy Joseph A. Football.
Uh-oh.
And Joey Football said, I just got back from vacation. Like, I texted him a month ago. He's like, I just got back from vacation. And I was thinking, well, so did I for the sports show. You know, but that Joey Football, a vacation, a man of leisure, apparently. That tickled me when I heard when he said I just got back from vacation. And I texted him like 3 months ago. It's a little, it's interesting.
You say that I'm the world traveler. Joseph was on vacation for, I guess, a month, according to this. Phil Steele, you just told me, was in Europe. Hank is in Africa right now for 3 weeks, but I'm the world traveler.
I don't think you were supposed to say that. Oh. I don't think you were supposed to say that last part out loud. You didn't hit the dump button. I don't think you said you should have said the last part out loud.
I just named a continent. I can't say where he is.
I'm just telling you what
I'm sorry.
I danced around the subject on Talk of the Town, and you'd have thought I was going to reveal world secrets with the way the Big N got very nervous.
So I didn't know this, that I wasn't supposed to say it, so I apologize. So what I'm hearing is he's not on vacation. He's actually in the witness protection, and we're never going to see Hank again. He went to the witness protection. It was nice knowing you, buddy.
Well, look, we all know it is the time of the month where or the time of the week where Hank takes his monthly vacation. So that's kind of where that is. Now, listen, I was like the pitcher the other night for the Braves. I was nowhere near the zone. I was just nibbling on the zone. But the female umpire was calling strikes because she
6
clearly
inches off the plate,
incompetent.
baby. Strike one.
Yes. None of them
Major
were
League
close.
Baseball.
All right. New thing on the show. It is the 5 things of 5. Hit it, baby.
This may very well be our last mission. Let's make it count.
This is the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
It's impossible.
Now some stories you may have heard.
You ready?
Or catch it for the first time. This is your 5 at 5 with the P-Man.
What is going on around Pirate Nation and beyond? Philip the Ref Pilkington will set him up. I'll knock him down. Pilk will give his 2 cents. Top 5 at 5. What we got, Pilk?
All right, here we go. We got to talk to John David Baker for the first time since the Pirates' first scrimmage, which took place this past Saturday. OC John David Baker on how he thought the Pirates' offense did in that scrimmage.
I was very pleased with it. Really because it was such a point of emphasis going into the scrimmage for us of just playing with excitement, being excited to play. And, and I pointed at myself talking to the unit the day before was I'm the world's worst, because I tried to, have a business-like approach to a scrimmage. It's a practice. We're trying to get better. But at the same time, you need to, we have enough new guys on the unit to where they need to feel what it's like on game day. They need to feel that level of intensity. You can't get all the way there, but you can try and match it. And so that's what we tried to do.
With Jaquace Petaway, who I guess was at Oklahoma at one point, you got Anthony Smith, Yannick Smith. I think he's got a lot of things, especially with a quarterback who seems to really be in symposium with them. This isn't just a business approach. That's the thing I like about this program now, is that there is passion involved in it. And that's kind of a theme that we will shift in and out of here during the course of the 5 and 5, because it's the passion that you have to like if you're an ECU Pirate fan. Yes, the linebacking situation, again, another bit of foreshadowing, is a concern. But the fact that you have an offensive coordinator that is a quick study, is turned loose and showed you what he could do when he had the reins pulled off of him, and a quarterback that is a P4 level talent who has grasped the offense and it's done quite well. So you should be excited. I'm excited, Pilk. I'm juiced up about it. So I know John David Baker is.
Oh, he 100% is. And, he kept talking about energy, and it seems like that was kind of the reoccurring theme through his press conference, was the energy that they were bringing. And sometimes you get in the dog days of camp and you're not bringing the energy, but he seemed pleased with the energy, and Blake Harrell was pleased with the energy today at practice. He even said that. But we're going on to number 2 now, which is not about the energy at practice. It was about when Blake was asked what position group needs to step it up. And just like a true former linebackers coach, he calls his boys out.
And we talked about this yesterday with Blake on the Patrick Johnson Show.
To me, and maybe it's because that's my background's in linebackers, and I think DJ Johnson did some good things today, but DJ, he's got to get over the last play that happened and on to the next play. He just he kind of loses his mind about the last play and telling everybody how good of a job he did. Well, you did your job. Yeah, I just told him, you did your job. And you do your job, that's what you're supposed to do. Now move on to the next play and get ready to do it again. So he's doing really good, but we got to develop that mindset as us as coaches. But that's the position I see that's got to take the biggest leap this week. If they'll do that, I'll feel a lot better about where we are defensively.
Don't pat yourself on the back. Act like you've been there before. Make the play with heart, play with emotion. If you're going to bark a little, that's cool. Don't get torched on the next play. That doesn't work.
I know, man. It's like the guy who's over there too busy doing this, the DB, and then the next play, he lets up the bomb over his head. But it's all good. I like coach's honesty there, right? And I think part of it is you see the flaws in a position group that you coached for so long, more so than you're going to see the flaws in the other group, because you expect 100% out of everybody, but you expect 110% out of them. So I get it, but I like it. Way to be honest, Blake.
That's why we love Blake Harrell. The defensive-minded coaches, it's always a concern about how the team is going to play, especially on offense. But I don't think that's the case. I think Blake Harrell is a manager and leader of people by empowering them to lead. And he also realizes I've got a great offensive coordinator. I'm going to let him call the play. And so that'll allow me time to nitpick on the linebackers, since I used to coach that position. All right, number 3, Philip the Ref Pilkington. We're not double sourcing again, are we, Pilk?
We're not.
Is that number 3? We're not double. Okay, very good.
This is number 3. We're going to do a little more of a calm on number 3, so we can ramp it back up for 4 and 5. So the preseason ones to watch list for the American for soccer. By the way, women's soccer starts Thursday at 2. A little bit of a weird time. If you can make it out to Johnson Stadium, Thursday at 2. The Pilk might be there.
Who are they playing?
I think Liberty. Don't quote me.
Okay. Liberty Bibberty.
In front of me. Yeah.
Should we get the soccer coach tomorrow? Can you work on that?
Yeah, I can text Cole. See if we can get
get on that. Yeah, I'm still waiting to hear back from guests tomorrow. Let's have the soccer coach on.
Let's do it. All right, so ones to watch. They did 3 players for each team. For the Pirates, it is forward Caitlin Starr Dolan Boardroom. She's got a lot of names. She's got 4 names. Midfielder Isabella Gutierrez, and forward Juliana Vera. So those are.
Is this like a preseason? Is this what we used to call like the preseason all conference? Is they're calling it now ones to watch?
Yeah, and they have 3 from each team, so that everyone's equal. We don't hurt anybody's feelings that we gave 4 to one person and only 2 to the other.
What was the name of the first person again? Can you read that again, please, in your Rowan County accent or whatever that is?
Caitlin Starr Dolan Boudrum.
Caitlin Starr. Dolan Boudrum. Okay, I was saying yeah. There are 4 names in there. That's a little much.
It's a mouthful, man.
All right.
All right.
It's a mouthful. All right. Well, hey, let's see if we can get the soccer coach. If not, let's get Maeve English. She could do the preview
She's in
for us.
Greece right now, isn't she? I think she's already in
Greece. We can do you forget what time I get up. I can do the interview in the morning. All right.
I don't know how to get a hold of her. I guess I can DM her or something. That's all I got.
Slide into her DMs, Phil. Slide into Maeve's DMs.
Maeve's DMs that way, but I mean, shoot, that's the only way to get hold of her. She's in another country.
Quattro,
right,
baby.
Here we
Quattro.
go. Number 4, the State, which I guess is a place from an article or a newspaper or whatever, online newspaper from South Carolina, did an article on former
Whoa, Pilk. That is like the News and Observer of the state of South Carolina. That's like their state capital newspaper.
Well, I don't know what they do.
It's not like On 3 or, Chili Pepper, or whatever the chilipepper.net or whatever these things are. No. This is like an actual newspaper that. But anyway, go ahead. I digress. Go ahead.
All right. They did an article on former East Carolina head football coach Mike Houston. And in this article, Coach Houston said, and I quote, "It was a rebuild when I took it. And we were able to," wow, this thing jumped all around, sorry. "We were able to rebuild it and had a lot of success there. Just timing of everything with some of the changes in the landscape of college football, we struggled to adapt." He then went on later to say, "I think where I left it, they've got a good chance, but we'll see. I just think the landscape of college football has changed so much that especially for schools at that level, there is a lot, and they've got a kind to learn." I can't read and talk at the same time. That's the problem. There's still a lot
Reading's fundamental.
They've got to kind of learn how to navigate through the current climate. Easy for me to say.
So, obviously I read this. I meant to mention this yesterday, but, we were with all the excitement of coming back at Coach Harrell and all the other things going on. So I'm glad we brought it up today. Here's what I would say very simply to that. When he took over, it was a rebuild. He was the right guy at the right time because you needed to have a cord of discipline and hard work that did not exist in the program. Now, as the program and more importantly, college football evolved, Coach Houston probably stuck to his guns too much on certain things. I don't think there's any two ways about a 2-10 season in your 5th year unless it's extenuating circumstances, it just wasn't working. And that was a portal period. I mean, you could have gone and conceivably got somebody out of the portal that could have played the position of quarterback. But that was not the case. He stuck to his guns on that. I understand it was one of the highest recruits ever, if not the highest recruit ever, certainly at quarterback. Fine and dandy, but you stuck to your guns too much on it. That's what I say about that.
He did, but I would rather have a guy stick to his guns, and his fault was he was too loyal to his players than it be the other way around. So a lot of respect for the way he handled it. But
that gets you 5 wins in 15 games, though.
Yeah,
in this day and age.
Respect doesn't win football games. I'm just being
right. This is
nice.
A transactional. This is a trans deal. You can't go 0-2 against App. You can't go 0-2 against Charlotte. You can't have 2 wins. You have to be able to adapt with the time. But I don't take anything he said there as any sort of situation of offense at all. And I read the whole article the other day, but I reread it about an hour ago because I knew we were going to talk about this today. And here's what I would say. Mike is always carefully choosing his words with a lot of things. And, asked about being he likes the idea, and I do believe this, he likes the idea of being able to work with players, position players, and that kind of thing. I think that's kind of his, he was a real controlling kind of character as the head coach. And look, there's a ton of responsibility as the head coach. You have to be on top of things. But Mike was a real iron fist, had to kind of control everything kind of guy. And, it's interesting to me that he is finding joy, if you're to believe the comments, in just working with players. He wasn't able to do that sort of thing and really hadn't done it for the last 15 years, to be honest. Probably a little more at the D2 and FCS level, maybe a little less at James Madison because that was a different sort of deal, and certainly less at East Carolina than working with position groups. All right, final one on the final 5 here at 5, Pilk.
Well, Patrick's favorite topic is guys who've won Super Bowls. We're not talking about Belichick. We're going to talk about a guy who did win a Super Bowl in the middle of a Belichick sandwich. Super Bowl 37 head coach John Gruden has won his court case in a Supreme Court in Nevada that ruled 5-2 that he is not required to attend the arbitration between the NFL and can go forward with his lawsuit and suing the NFL for pretty much firing him on purpose for leaking the
without
emails
cause
they leaked those emails that he had 20 years ago.
Oh, you mean firing him? Yeah.
So pretty much just having them leak and firing him for that instead of when they had them all along just saying, hey, this is why we can't hire you, but they put him into a situation and then they want him gone. So
right, yeah.
He can go forward and try and sue the NFL.
Obviously, the NFL is going to settle. They don't want to drag this into court. This doesn't need, this is what essentially, I would guess there's an appeal beyond this to the Supreme Court, but I don't think the Supreme Court of our nation is going to hear this, clearly.
Yeah.
I don't think, are they?
I would guess not. I think they've got bigger things to deal with other than John
They got
Gruden
bigger fish to fry.
being a
so,
jerk.
My guess is Gruden's got a YouTube channel now that is gangbusters. We had the American Commissioner the couple days after he appeared on it. That thing is doing great. Gruden's great at media. Regardless of what he said in those emails, regardless of what you might think of Chucky, Gruden, when it comes to a microphone, is outstanding. He was, maybe not the greatest Monday Night Football analyst ever, but he certainly was one of the better ones that they've had in recent years.
Better than Booger McFarland.
And that's what I mean. That ESPN Monday Night Football thing, really until Joe Buck and Troy Aikman got traded, had been a dumpster fire for an extended period of time. So I think it's really, for me, he likes what he's doing now. He's still involved with football. He's a media star. He's about to get a PH fat settlement, as we used to say back in the 90s when I was in school. And he's going to ride off into the sunset, and he'll never coach another down of football again, and he'll probably be the better for it.
I agree with you. I agree, and we do have to get to Phil Steele, but I want to bring up one point. I just want you to agree or disagree with me. Did you always feel that as kind of a weird marriage for him to go back to the Raiders? Like, I know Al had since passed.
No.
But I find it weird that he went back. You don't?
No. He had success there, let him do a Super Bowl.
No, he didn't lead him to the Super Bowl. They traded him, and then he took the Bucks to the Super Bowl and beat them. That's the thing. They
Bucks
traded
to the Super Bowl and beat them. That's right. That's
why I'm saying
I get
weird.
that confused.
Yeah, they played the Raiders.
Yeah, they played there. That's right. No, I don't think it's weird. Plus, they were in Vegas at the time, weren't they? Were they in Vegas yet?
I don't know when the heck they moved. All these darn relocations.
Yeah.
I can't keep up.
So, the Raiders had a little shine on them. All right. Got to get to Phil Steele. We're coming back right after this timeout, and when we do, we'll talk Pirate football more with the great Phil Steele joining us here on the PJ Show.
The team of Flatlands Jessup is working overtime to help ensure that Eastern North Carolinians like you get the health insurance help you need this open enrollment period. New legislation passed, meaning more people than ever qualify for affordable coverage. Let us help you today.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers in Greenville, plus the all-new Tiebreakers in Winterville. Do real burgers better than anybody. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, real burgers at its best.
Everybody loves burgers.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt & Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt & Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
In this age of globalization, we've learned that bigger isn't always better. Ever tried to get phone help from a big corporation from a real person? Right. That's what's so nice about Phelps Chevrolet. After more than 50 years serving our community, Phelps remains family-owned and operated. Mike, Daryl, Wave, West, Allen, and Clay deliver hometown service and integrity, same as always. They share your experience, they share your values, and they are ready to help with any motoring need. Come get you one.
Tired of the 1-800 numbers advertising Medicare products? Flatlands Jessup has 6 offices all throughout eastern North Carolina. Get face-to-face help from our local award-winning licensed team. Stop by today. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
Remember, get the podcast of the show on the IBX Media app or where you get your podcasts.
I listen on my Apple Watch.
Smart speaker.
Listen while you work.
I listen everywhere. The Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
The great Phil Steele joining us here. We're talking college football with the guru, and it is out. You can still get your hands on it. Order it like I did at philsteele.com or head to your local Barnes & Noble. If you're over in the Goldsboro area, Wayne County way, you can go to Books A Million there, and they should have it. It's the magazine the experts cannot do without, and I'm maybe paraphrasing that. I may have nailed the line. Anyway, Phil Steele is with us. I know that, and it's always a treat every time I get to talk to Phil. Good to talk to you, my friend, both off air and on air. It's fantastic anytime we get a chance to chat with you.
Always good to talk to you, my friend.
Well, we have a lot of excitement, a little more than 2 weeks away from the opener, East Carolina and NC State. So I'm going to start, I'm going to, great bowl game. I'm sure you watched it. Fantastic finish to that, especially if you're a Pirate fan. East Carolina really took it to State in the bowl game, too. Really fired up. And for long stretches, especially in the first half, really kind of set the tone and dominated the game. So I'm going to start with that matchup because that's big for both fan bases. Dave Doran can say whatever he wants. That's big for both fan bases. So how do you see that opener in a couple of weeks, Phil?
Yeah, it's a great rivalry game. I'm glad they're starting to play again. And how remarkable is it that they're playing in back-to-back games, especially after what happened after the game last year on the field. But I think it's an important game for both teams. With Blake Harrell, there's clearly can play the disrespect card. And with NC State, they can clearly play the revenge card for this year for losing last year. And I think it's an important game for NC State to come out of the gate and win. I think it's going to be a fun game. I believe NC State currently favored in the game as they should be. But as we saw in the bowl game, East Carolina came into that thing fired up. And as you mentioned, I thought pretty much controlled the good portions of the game. So I think it's going to be a great game, a fun one to watch.
I've been combing through the magazine since I got it prior to the 4th. Your guys hooked me up and got it out to me quick. Got one for one of my friends, got one for my dad, as little gifts to them, and that kept them, I guess, interested in what was going on over the summer as the great Phil Steele joins us here. So I've been pouring through things. East Carolina, they're in that it's an interesting thing, Phil, with the Pirates. Experience-wise, they're among some of your more experienced teams, but they don't have guys that have necessarily been starters, just guys who have logged a lot of snaps. And I guess in college football now, the way East Carolina plays historically under Blake Harrell on defense is they use a lot of guys anyway. And I guess it's the old adage like in sports, it doesn't matter who starts, it matters who finishes. But, I just look at this and, a team that has a good amount of veteran presence, but there's still a lot of question marks, especially on defense for the Pirates.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there are 53 new players this year. 23 of them are true freshmen. They've got 30 transfers coming in. and 40% of the roster is made up of first and second year players. So, but there are also 28 seniors on this year's squad.
Yeah.
So and you find this in the group of 5 teams, Patrick, is that a large amount of transfers, because generally what happens is if you develop a player, make him a star, somebody's going to buy him off your roster, and that's what really hurts, I think, the group of 5. But they get better classes of recruits coming in. But let's talk about this year's team. You start with the quarterback, Caden Hauser. He's a guy that should be one of the stronger quarterbacks in the American Conference this year. And, Mike Wright's a guy who they probably should have some packages for. He's a dangerous runner. He had those packages when he was at Vandy, Mississippi State, and I think he can do well there. The running backs, they do lose Harris, which, I mean, that big run he made in the bowl game, wow, that was impressive. But London Montgomery's back, Marlon Gunn's back, Parker Jenkins. And Coach Harrell feels real strong about the running back core. He says overall, probably better depth at running back than they had last year. In the receiving core, one guy that really progressed this summer, I felt, was Pettaway. And Pettaway could be the key to this year's success. They also have Anthony Smith back, who was a leading receiver from last year. And so when you look at the receiving core, they appear to be in pretty good shape. Offensive line, probably more athletic than they were last year, but only they have 3 starters back. Defensively, they do lose a couple of key players, but Craig up front should provide the rush at defensive end. They got Duncan Wilson at linebacker, Tegan Wilkin-Riddle at safety. So there's a good makeup this year. I think my main concern with East Carolina, probably a little bit tougher schedule. But I'll say this. Last year I had East Carolina, my number 1 most improved team. I needed them to have a big increase in record coming from 2 wins, and it looked a little dicey there mid-year. But once Coach Harrell took over, then they all of a sudden made me look good at the end of the year. So I appreciate that, East Carolina.
The great Phil Steele with us here, philsteele.com, at Phil Steele 042 on X if you want to follow him there. Phil, you talked about the Pirates there and all the new faces, the portal. I mean, it's such a prevalent part of today's game. How has that made things in your world different? Because I know you're one of the most detailed guys that's been in this game forever, and you pride yourself on those conversations you have with the coaches in the spring and early summer. You pride yourself on kind of digging in. How has this made your job different, more challenging this modern day?
Yeah, the second portal has really made it tough. If we could limit it to 1 portal and have that in the winter, sometime January, maybe sometime in that area, it'd be great. But right now with these 2 portals, the thing I found this year, Patrick, going through the rosters with the coaches, I was amazed at the amount of players that actually signed in the winter and left after spring practice was over. I mean, it was remarkable. It's getting, you got to put some restraints on this at some point. But, it has made it tougher. I'd say 5 years ago, Patrick, I could go to the press middle of May because I've already talked to all the coaches. Some coaches' spring practice ended in March, so I could talk to them after they do their exit interviews, generally about a week after spring practice is over, go over their roster with them. Well, now I had to wait till the transfer portal was closed at the end of April, and then I'm trying to cram 136 coaches all into the month of May, and that's an hour plus a piece, and you're trying to get schedules managed, and I actually dragged into June with the coaches' calls. There were still 10 coaches, that we're trying to get hooked up with to talk to, and that actually went into the first week of June. It makes May and the first week of June very hectic, and if they do 2 transfer portals again, I guess I'm going to have to come out a week later this year. We were able to capture all the players that signed, though, because we go to the press 5 weeks after the transfer portal closes.
Right.
Basically, everybody that's worth signing is in the magazine. We've got them on the right pages. But, it makes for a very hectic month of May.
Yeah, certainly does. The great Phil Steele with us here. Let's get back to the Pirates, Phil. You talked about that challenging schedule. Obviously, there's a section there that I see that is going to be especially interesting. There's the opener at NC State, and I think it carries its own certain weight, and it does have maybe a sense of anything can happen. Wolfpack favorite in that game, as you mentioned, could be a great one. But I look at later in the month and the beginning of October, and I'm talking the month of September, near the end of that, you got BYU coming in, and then just days later, a conference matchup, the league opener in the American, with Army. Boy, that's really interesting because those are two programs that certainly have a lot of historical success. Army coming off the league championship after one season in the American. That style, and then you got to know too. I mean, you know this, Phil. BYU, big up front, always physical. That's a pretty daunting challenge, in my opinion. Those two games in less than a week's time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And ideally, if I was East Carolina's, if I was Blake Harrell, I'd want that Army game to be October the 4th and have a bye to help prepare for Army, as you mentioned, coming off a very physical BYU team. And then the option, generally I like it when you have a week prior to prepare, or maybe a bye week a couple weeks ahead where you can actually work on the option a little bit. The option is a tough offense to prepare for, and on a short week where they're playing 5 games in 5 weeks, there's really no bye week in there to help prepare for it. That's going to make it pretty tough. Now, the only advantage Army or East Carolina would have in those two games is that Army is breaking in a brand new quarterback this year. Last year's starting quarterback was really the strength of the team in Bryson Daly. Daly was like a running back or a fullback playing quarterback. Now they're going with some different types of quarterbacks. They don't really know who it's going to be. So I think that might be an advantage. And with BYU, naturally, Jake Retzlaff transferred out, but I don't think that's as big because Retzlaff last year only had 20 touchdown passes, 12 interceptions, only hit 58% of his passes. I think Trayson Bourget, Hillstead, or Bachmeier, whoever wins the job, any one of the three could come near those numbers. But that's a tough back-to-back. And then after the bye, having to play Tulane, I believe they're the conference favorite this year, on the road, that's a tough 3-game stretch for East Carolina.
Pirates also get Memphis on the back end of the schedule, trip to UTSA. So, I mean, there's some daunting matchups that dot this schedule. And, I think
no doubt.
I think going to Coastal is going to be tough. I mean, this is you nailed it. This is a much more challenging schedule than last year's.
Yeah, I thought last year's laid out well. Part of the reason I picked East Carolina to be my number 1 most improved team last year. But, the fact that they've got a lot of new players on this year's squad and the schedule stuffer, I think it's going to be tough to get back to last year's 8-win total, to be honest with you.
Well, let's ask you about that, Phil. What do you see out of the Pirates this year? I mean, if you had to set it at, let's just say 6.5 on an over-under with the wins, what would you take on the Pirates?
I would put them on an underdog at NC State, BYU, the Army game. I mean, it wasn't a good matchup with Army last year. And, I mean, it's on a short week playing the option. That's going to be tough. At Tulane, they'll be a dog. The Memphis game, that's a big one. Memphis doesn't play as well on the road as they do at home. At UTSA, nobody beats Jeff Traylor at home. So you're probably looking at 5 games, which I would expect them to most likely lose, and then another toss-up game. So at 6.5, boy, I'd probably be right there. If I was setting a line for East Carolina, I'd set it at 6.5. But like I said, it's going to be tough to match last year's 8-win total.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Phil, some other things to talk about. Let's kind of get into the league a little bit. You mentioned Tulane. Army does have the new quarterback, but coming off a remarkable 12-win campaign. Memphis among the teams, although they have had their struggles on the road, that's well documented. A lot of people like Navy too coming into the year. They really like the midshipmen to maybe make some noise in the conference. So how do you kind of see, let's just say, the top half of the league unfolding, and where do the Pirates fall in that mix?
Yeah, I think Navy deserves to be one of the teams at the top this year. Blake Horvath is back. It's one of Navy's most experienced teams. They never rate very high on my experience chart. This year they're number 16. They've got 8 starters back on offense, 5 on defense. So it's actually a very experienced squad. USF is a team that intrigues me because I had high expectations for them last year. They finished just 7-6, but one of the reasons was Byron Brown got injured. He is fully healthy at quarterback, and this is a veteran team. I think Alex Golish will have them in contention. With Tulane, they bring in Brendan Sullivan from Northwestern, Simonza from Ball State, and, of course, Retzlaff from BYU. So they're going to have a good quarterback emerge. Tulane is the preseason favorite to win the conference. As mentioned, UTSA, Owen McCown could be the top quarterback in the league. We'll have to see how it plays out this year. But UTSA last year went through their struggles early, played great late. You just don't beat them at home. And most of their tough games this year are at home. They get Tulane at home. They get Army at home. And, I think UTSA is a legitimate contender. But last year's preseason favorite was Memphis. And I wasn't as high on Memphis because of the fact they don't play as well on the road. And they had a lot of tough matchups on the road, ended up losing at Navy, at UTSA. Now you look at this year's road schedule, Florida Atlantic, UAB, Rice, all three of those games very winnable. And then the East Carolina game, which I rated a toss-up. Their toughest games are at home. They almost never lose at home. That's why I picked Memphis as my conference favorite this year. I know they lose their star quarterback. I mean, Seth Hennigan was there forever, a rare 4-year starter. But they bring in Brendan Lewis from Nevada. And, of course, they've got all that FedEx money, so they brought in a ton of transfers. And so I went with Memphis to win the league, but I think it's going to be a great battle across the board.
Phil Steele with us here on the Patrick Johnson Show. All right, tell you what, let's get a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Pirates' season-opening opponent in some detail. That is NC State. And we'll ask him about who's going to make the Natty or vie for the national championship this year. Phil Steele, when we roll on here on the Patrick Johnson Show.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
At Parker's Barbecue, our family has been serving your family for 3 generations.
For that, we say thank you.
Blessing families every Thursday. Kids eat free all day. That's the Parker's way.
Legendary food served from our 3 locations. Always quick, always delicious. That's the Parker's way.
At Parker's, our mission is to impact our customers through Christ-like service in a way that feeds them both physically and spiritually. That is the Parker's way.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
And now, the stunning conclusion. Why is everyone screaming? On 94.3 The Game.
All right, the great Phil Steele with us here on the Patrick Johnson Show today. We always enjoy talking ball with Phil. Magazine is out now. You can get it at philsteele.com, Barnes & Noble, and if you have a Books A Million in your jurisdiction, they should be there for sale. All right, Phil, we talked a little bit about North Carolina State. They are the opponent that the Pirates are opening against in a little more than 2 weeks. When you look at the pack, how do you see things playing out for the Wolfies this year in West Raleigh?
Well, C.J. Bailey coming back is big, and I think you're going to see C.J. Bailey be a much improved QB in his second year as a starter after doing it as a freshman last year. Hollywood Smothers at running back is a guy that led the team in rushing. I look for a bigger year out of him. He originally signed at Oklahoma. He is what I call a BHT running back. You look at the receiving core, they bring in Noah Rogers from Ohio State, Wesley Grimes from Wake Forest to go along with their tight end Justin Jolly. The offensive line's a veteran group. They've got a couple of top-notch tackles in Anderson and Peak. And defensively, that's a really good front seven. I think their front seven is loaded with experience this year. They've got more depth than what they had on the defensive line. And at linebacker, they've got Sean Brown and Caden Fordham back. The secondary is probably the biggest question mark, but they've improved the speed of the secondary overall. Now, last year, when you looked at the schedule, a couple of folks are saying, hey, this could be a contender in the ACC. Ended up not being there. In fact, finished just 6-7. I think they like the fact they're flying under the radar this year. When you look at the schedule, they're probably going to be an underdog at Duke, at Notre Dame, at Pitt, and at Miami. A couple of toss-up games on the schedule. They play a really good Georgia Tech team at home, Florida State at home. I think how they do in those two games will determine whether or not they can get up into, let's say, that 8-win level. But I think it's a better season for NC State, but I wouldn't call them an ACC contender this year.
Phil, how about Duke? In this era of the portal, they retained a lot of guys and brought in Tulane's quarterback.
Yeah, and I thought that was a good move bringing in Mensa. Mensa's going to give them mobility at the quarterback position, something they didn't have last year. And, when you look at Duke, I did I have a blog up on philsteele.com, Patrick, which talks about homegrown teams. And Duke's right there. They're at the top 87% homegrown. In other words, not a lot of transfers. A lot of their players were recruited as freshmen there, and they're still there. As you mentioned, they retained a heck of a lot of their players. Their defense has been excellent, and they've got the bulk of that defensive front seven coming back with Mensa added at quarterback to go with, along with Jaquez Moore at running back, and you look at the overall talent they have, they're going to be dangerous. Now, you look at their schedule. They host Illinois. That's going to be a tough game. They have to play at Syracuse, at Clemson, at North Carolina. I don't know if they could top last year's 9-win total, but Manny Diaz did a great job last year getting this team to 9 wins. They won a lot of close games, and, on the season, they were actually in conference play minus 55 yards per game, but got to 9-4. We'll see if they can recapture that magic this year, but it should be another strong year for Duke, and I like the fact they're a homegrown team.
Diaz, I think, has ended up and will prove to be a pretty good hire there. Seems to fit the situation well. And, he's at Miami. That was private. I think he kind of understands the academic side of a place like Duke. Now, coaching hires, one of the more interesting ones, Bill Belichick to North Carolina. Boy, they have broken the bank, rolled out a ton of cash, paying their GM Lombardi a ton of money. I mean, it's a really interesting deal, Phil. Outside of the numbers, how do you see the Belichick influence on this program?
Well, the one big thing that he's got going for him this year is actually the schedule. They have, we talked about East Carolina having a really tough schedule. You look at North Carolina's schedule; they've got a very manageable slate. They should have a pretty good year. Now, I think Belichick comes in. Be interesting to see how he adapts to the college game. But I like the fact he hung around at Washington last year. His son, Steve, was the defensive coordinator at Washington. He spent a lot of time there. Probably get into the college game a little bit more. And I think, as he mentioned a couple of times, he's a good teacher, and he's got players that don't have a lot of bad habits. So they're definitely got their ears wide open, and they're listening. And I think with new head coach coaches, if you get yourself early season success, you can have a big year. And if they beat TCU, they'll be favored over Charlotte, Richmond, UCF in the next 3 games. They could be 4-0 when they host Clemson. The only other games on their schedule, if they get, after that Clemson game, they play Cal on the road, winnable. Yeah. Virginia, winnable. At Syracuse, I think Syracuse in a rebuilding year, winnable. Stanford at home, winnable. Wake Forest, rebuilding year, winnable. Duke at home, winnable. NC State, I think North Carolina's got a chance at a potential double-digit win season, provided they get off to that good start.
Where are the areas that concern you about North Carolina when you look? I mean, you talk about something like 70 new guys on the roster.
70, yeah.
Gosh,
that
a lot of unknowns.
That's my concern.
Yeah,
that's my concern with North Carolina is how do you incorporate all these guys? Now they've got this guy Belichick that I've heard has done a pretty few good things in his coaching career.
Sure,
but wow, that's a lot of new players. I do like the pickup late. I know Major Appleboy wasn't too happy, but Gio Lopez coming over from South Alabama, that's a nice pickup at the quarterback position. They've got a lot of new guys from the transfer portal. They hit the portal hard. They lost a couple guys after spring, but, sometimes if they don't fit, they don't fit. So my biggest question mark is how are all these new guys going to get incorporated into one season?
Yeah. Phil Steele, you can check out philsteele.com and order the magazine there. They'll get it to you lickety-split. Still plenty of time to order that before the start of the college football season. Lots of great information in there. It has been a great companion during summer reading time here at the Working Man's Beach. All right, Phil, let me ask you. I'm not going to ask you necessarily pick all of the teams going into the playoff, but, I mean, who are your national championship contenders and favorites as we go into the season?
Yeah, I think when you go to the Big Ten, you got 3 teams in my mind that'll clearly make the playoff, and that is Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon. And then I think when you look at the teams that are contending, I believe the Big Ten will get 4 spots. Teams that are contending for that 4th spot, you're looking at Michigan, Illinois, Indiana. By the way, that Illinois-Indiana game on September 20th, I'm lining up the popcorn for that thing already. That's going to be a playoff elimination game.
Yeah.
And then a couple of dark horses in the Big Ten, USC and Nebraska. But I think the 3 that are definitely in are Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon. When you go to the SEC, once again, I got 3 teams pretty much in: Georgia, Texas, Alabama. And then the question is, who's number 4? And I think Oklahoma's got a chance. Coming off a 6-7 season, they're my number 1 surprise team. You also have to include LSU in that mix, Texas A&M, and Florida, despite the tough schedule. I think out of the Big 12, you're going to get 1 team into the playoff. It's either going to be Baylor, Utah, or Iowa State, but there are 7-8 teams that could win the Big 12. I don't think the Big 12 is going to have the type of upheaval that it had last year where all the teams at the bottom finish at the top, all the teams at the top finish at the bottom. I believe your top 8 teams will finish in the top 8 this year, but a lot of it depends on the schedule and game by game. It's tough to call. And out of the ACC, I think your clear-cut favorite is Clemson. Clemson is a team that actually have favored in all 12 games this year. When you look at Clemson, they've got Kay Klubnik at quarterback, and 2 years ago his receiving core was banged up, and so he only had 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Last year he got those injured players back. They added to the receivers, and all of a sudden 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Well, now he's got my number 2 receiving core, number 2 offensive line. I think Clemson might have the most potent offense in the country, and defensively they surprised me last year, allowing 374 yards per game. But they have too much NFL talent on that side of the ball. They have Peter Woods, Capehart, Parker, Woodez, Brown. I can go on. And now they've got a new defensive coordinator in Tom Allen who will get the most out of that unit. I do have Clemson favored in all 12 games. I think they're a legitimate title contender. The other ones that I've got favored in all their games, Georgia. And Georgia, it's because of the schedule. I actually rate them the 3rd best team in the SEC talent-wise. But last year, they were the number 1 team in the country coming into the season, and their 3 toughest games were all on the road: Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, and they lost 2 of those. Well, this year, their toughest 3 games are Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, but they get them all at home. They haven't lost a game between the hedges in 5 years. That's why I've got them at top of the SEC. And to me, the other 2 teams that have a chance of running the table, you got Notre Dame, Big question at quarterback. C.J. Carr taking over, but a great surrounding talent. And I thought they would have given Ohio State an even better test in the finals last year. They not lost their top defensive lineman, top offensive lineman, the injury, and then also running back Love was banged up prior to that game. They're going to be dangerous this year. But my team to win it all, and for the first time in the 31 years of the magazine, I'm picking them number one. I am going with Penn State. And when I look at Penn State, they really have it all. Yeah, they've got the quarterback in Drew Aller, and he's gotten better each and every year. They've got my number one rated offensive line in front of them, my number one running back core, and it's not just Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. They also have Corey Smith, Quentin Martin, a couple of VHT freshmen that got their feet wet last year. That's a deep running back core. They upgraded at receiver. They got Kyron Hudson from USC, Trevor Pena from Syracuse, Devontae Ross from Troy. The defense was nasty last year. It's nasty again this year. Denai Dennis Sutton and Zane Durant both would have been top draft picks this year, but they opted to return. They only lost 5 draft picks. They have the same thing going for them that Michigan and Ohio State did the last 2 years, which is a lot of players turned down the NFL, opted to return. I think that gives Penn State a great shot here. They got the playoff experience last year. They nearly got past Notre Dame to get to the championship. I think they break through this year. I've got Penn State winning it all.
Wow. Phil, with the playoff, just one thing curious. What G5 schools do you see vying for that spot?
I would say there's 4 teams in the mix there. Naturally, Boise's your front runner, and even without Ashton Genty, I think you look at their schedule, the only game they're an underdog is at Notre Dame, and if you have a loss at Notre Dame, that's no big deal. Memphis, in my mind, has to be up there. Memphis could very well be a 11-1, 12-0 team. I do think they're going to get better quarterback play than expected, and as mentioned, their toughest games, including Arkansas, are all at home. And Ryan Silverfield, 28-6 at home. He's just 10-13 on the road, but toughest games at home this year. Keep your eyes on Toledo. Last year I watched that Toledo-Mississippi State game, and Toledo actually out-muscled Mississippi State at the line of scrimmage. In fact, Mississippi State this year frantically hit the portal to try to beef up on both sides of the line of scrimmage after Toledo out-muscled them. Toledo was inexperienced last year. Now they're experienced this year, and they go their big jump on the experience chart all the way up to number 25 from number 110 last year. And they play Kentucky on the road early. If they can get past Kentucky, they'll be favored in all the rest of their games. Keep your eyes on Toledo this year.
Who's overhyped in your mind?
Not necessarily overhyped because they are talented, but a team that I don't think is going to live up to the preseason expectations is South Carolina. And the reason for that is their schedule. It's a brutal one. Plus, last year, and everybody looks at quarterback, right? I think the easiest way to analyze a team for the upcoming year, who's your quarterback, who's your receiver? You know, they got Lenora Sellers, Superman's back, but their strength last year was the defensive front seven, Patrick. And the defensive front seven basically loses everybody but Dylan Stewart. Now, Dylan Stewart's one of the best defensive linemen in the league, but last year you had to account for a whole bunch of guys on South Carolina's defense, and they were absolutely dominant. This year you can put double teams on Dylan Stewart, and I think you'll be able to neutralize them. And then look at their schedule. They have to play on the road this year, Missouri, LSU, Mississippi, Texas A&M. And then at home, they play Alabama, Oklahoma, the team I call my number one surprise team, Clemson, and, oh, by the way, you also play Virginia Tech in the opener. That's a brutal schedule. They probably should have made the playoff last year at 9-3. They didn't. I don't think they're going to be flirting with the playoff bid this year.
Shane Beamer's done a heck of a job there, though, at a place that's not easy.
Incredible.
Yeah, really is. Hey, Phil, it's always a treat to talk to you, my friend. We'll maybe try to reconnect with you at some point later in the season. It's always good to get an update. But PhilSteele.com and the magazine, you can still get it preseason. Quite relevant, quite chock full of goodness and good information. Also available at Barnes & Noble and Books A Million stores. Phil, thanks a lot.
Yeah, appreciate it, Patrick. And by the way, Patrick, we have an FCS magazine out this year, which is 2 full pages on every FCS team. That's available right now. And we also put up an NFL magazine with 4 full pages on every NFL team. Now, those are digital only, but they're available on PhilSteele.com.
All right, check it out today. Phil, thanks a lot.
All right, Patrick. Always great talking to you, buddy.
All right. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. Great Phil Steele. There's the magazine, East Coast edition, PhilSteele.com. Maeve English tomorrow on the PJ Show.